Welcome to That's the Word, wholesome tales for the whole family. I'm Father James Yamauchi. Today's story, Trouble Aboard the Constitution. Sir, may I have a word? A warm day was dawning off the Italian coast, and Lieutenant James Rowan was troubled. His conscience had kept him restless throughout the night. James had nearly served for a year on the USS Constitution. The only life he had known was the Navy, serving in the Indies, the East Coast, South America, and multiple tours in the Mediterranean. He had experienced the turmoil of war, the menace of piracy, but he was now presented with a situation he had never encountered before. "Why, James, absolutely," Captain John Gwynn responded, coughing as he signaled James to step inside his cabin. Gwynn was preparing his finest uniform. Once the door closed behind James, Gwynn asked what was on his mind. "Sir," James began, "I have made all the arrangements for our guest today. However, what you shared with me last night is troubling me. How can we possibly proceed?" Gwynn knew what his first lieutenant meant. The Americans' presence in the Mediterranean needed to be seen as neutral in the European conflicts that were embroiling the continent at the time, and the officers were given strict orders to that effect. The only time to engage is to provide Americans assistance. But this morning, the USS Constitution was about to receive 2 European officials at the invitation of Lieutenant James Rowan. "Sir, my concern, as first lieutenant of this ship, is the welfare of the crew, the reputation of the Constitution, and to keep you out of trouble." He paused. "I was the one who made these arrangements, and this could create serious problems for you." Gwynn looked James Rowan intently in the eye. "Duly noted, Lieutenant. Now, carry on. Our guests will arrive soon." "Aye, Captain." Rowan turned and left the cabin. An order was an order. "Washington will have something to say about this," James thought to himself. Now alone in his cabin, Captain Gwynn sighed. While he understood America's need to maintain a neutral position in Europe, the invitation to his 2 guests had already been extended and accepted, and uninviting them now he judged to be improper. The sailors and the officers were ready at their stations when 2 rounds of a 21-gun salute came from all nearby ships. Captain Gwynn welcomed 2 men with their entourage on board the ship. "What an honor it is for me to welcome you on the USS Constitution," Gwynn told his guests. Turning to the whole crew, the captain announced his guests, a European king and a European bishop. Many of the sailors had never seen a king before and were excited to see what one looked like. The bishop drew equal interest. They all knew his story, exiled from his diocese and under the protection of the king. The bishop looked fatigued, yet his face lit up seeing the American sailors. After some brief exchanges with Captain Gwynn, prolonged by the use of a translator, the bishop proceeded to bless those on board. Then he and the king visited each part of the ship. The bishop would distribute rosaries to those who had lined up and speak briefly to the sailors as he passed by. At the end of the tour, the party went to the captain's quarters. Once inside, the bishop asked if he might be able to take a rest as he was feeling seasick. Eventually, the bishop awoke, and after a brief conversation, the guests departed. Captain Gwynn ordered another 2 rounds of a 21-gun salute. The Navy command was furious when they heard about the king's and the bishop's visit on the USS Constitution. The Commodore sent an angry letter to the Navy Department, intent on a court-martial. However, talk of court-martial ceased after Captain Gwyn's death a month later. The bishop who was hosted aboard the naval ship received help from the French army and was able to return to his diocese. His visit with the king aboard the American Navy ship gave this bishop an obscure historical first, as a warship is considered sovereign territory, and therefore American soil. When this bishop, a man born as Giovanni Maria Mastai Ferletti, visited the USS Constitution with King Ferdinand II of the Two Sicilies, he became the first pope on American soil, a pope known as Blessed Pius IX. And for this week, that's the word. If you are enjoying That's the Word, please share the word. Share That's the Word with friends, family, and anyone who loves a good story. Our website is sonsofthunderrock.com. Sonsofthunderrock.com is also where you can sign up for our weekly newsletter. Thanks again for listening, and I'll see you next Wednesday for another wholesome tale for the whole family.